We now are at 10:33 on a Friday morning. President Trump revealing he's directly involved in the talks with Iran, trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, hoping a deal could be coming, quote, very soon. How do we define that? Jacqui Heinrich on the North Lawn, White House now. Jacqui, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. We are now outside the 48-hour window where the president said earlier this week we could see a deal come together. Nevertheless, he says that things are moving along well, even though there is no breakthrough yet with the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, I don't want to say it has been. It's sort of open right now. You know, we have a thing called the blockade headed up by the U.S. Navy, and we control it. And now we control it, but they can always shoot something. But I think we're doing very well. I'm involved in the negotiation. I think we're doing fine. It could be soon.
The president also expressed confidence in U.S. military readiness if he opts to greenlight more strikes. He shot down a report from the Washington Post claiming that he grilled War Secretary Pete Hegseth at Camp David for misleading him on extreme munitions shortages. He posted to Truth Social, "I'm extremely happy with the job that Pete Hegseth is doing. This rumor was started by the Washington Post, one of the worst media outlets in the business, despite our telling them their story is completely false. In actuality, I really believe their fake reporting is treasonous." He insisted the U.S. has a virtually unlimited supply of certain munitions, while defense companies are working to produce others that are in a little tighter supply. And he blamed the Biden administration for depleting stocks long before the Iran conflict.
We're in great shape. But with that being said, we always want more. We have to have more. We have other things maybe come up. You maybe come up and maybe don't come up. Hopefully nothing else does come up.
The president once again insisted that oil and gas prices will fall sharply once the conflict is over. That was a point that the NEC director, Kevin Hassett, reiterated this morning, calling the higher prices a, quote, temporary phenomenon. Bill.
All right, Jacqui. Thanks, Jacqui Heinrich. Good to see you from the North Lawn. Thanks.
Okay, so while President Trump works on finalizing a deal with Iran, we're getting new details on the future of passage in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran and Oman are looking to share responsibility for that waterway, including new transit corridors for vessels. Let's bring in Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State and Fox News contributor. So we'll start there with you, Secretary. What do you make of this Iran-Oman relationship, this reported deal they're working on to effectively control the strait?
Actually, that'd be a terrible outcome for America, for the Middle East, indeed for the world. To allow the Iranians to control that in any way is simply unacceptable. I think President Trump actually knows that too. And I'm confident that in the negotiations he's making clear there'll be no tolls, there'll be no control. This is an international waterway. If we begin here, there are an endless number of places in the world that some country would assert this was theirs and they had their right to control it.
Well, when he says
the Omanis are in a tough spot with the Iranians, I understand why they're trying to cooperate, but there's no reason for us to end our blockade until it's wide open, uncontrolled by Iran.
Well, the Omanis have always been sort of in charge of, not really in charge, but helping to get ships across the strait in a safe manner. But the Iranians are, it seems like, trying to take advantage of that, sir. When the president says that he is now personally involved, personally talking to the Iranians, what does he mean by that? Who do you think he's talking to over there?
I don't really know. I think one of the challenges that President Trump and the other negotiators have faced all along is that we talk about negotiating with the Iranians, and there's no such thing, right? This is not a unitary entity. And when you talk to the United States, you're speaking to the U.S. When you're talking to the Iranians, there are multiple groups, each with their own agendas, all of which want death of Israel and the destruction of the United States. So I don't know who he might be speaking with. You can see these comments come from the foreign ministry. You should just ignore them. They're meaningless. The only individuals that can control the outcome here is the IRGC, and I've seen no evidence that the IRGC is prepared to give up their pathway to a nuclear weapon.
Okay, some pretty big news out of the Gulf today. It seems like some of these countries have gotten together and created their own NATO pact. We're talking about Turkey, as well as Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have joined a defense agreement. So if somebody attacks one of them, they're all going to come together and defend that nation. And I think that there are some other countries, maybe even Qatar, that might join this defense pact. To me, that says they're expecting more tensions. They're expecting this Iran situation, this problem, to not go away. How do you read this?
Actually, I think you're right. I think there's two things. One is I think they believe that there'll be continued threats from the regime in Iran. And so they're looking for partners. I think the Pakistanis have already deployed military assets inside of Saudi Arabia to help defend them. But second, I think it also suggests to me that they understand that the problem isn't, right? We talk about the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I think they can all now recognize that the problem stems from Tehran and are all beginning to unite in a way that recognizes that